You keep telling yourself it's true love, that intensity, that passion, the feeling that you just can't live without them. It feels like something straight out of a movie. But if you're being honest with yourself, there's a darker side to it. It's a constant loop of pain and making up. You break up, only to get back together. It feels less like love and more like an addiction. If you feel addicted to the very person who is the source of your deepest pain, you are in the right place. And I need you to hear this. What you're feeling isn't your fault. This powerful connection might not be love, but a chain to your past, something called a trauma bond. And just understanding it is the very first step to breaking free. What is a trauma bond? So before we jump into the signs, let's get clear on what a trauma bond actually is, because the term can be a little confusing. It's not about two people bonding over a shared tough experience. A trauma bond is a powerful, unhealthy emotional attachment that a person who is being abused forms with their abuser. It's a psychological response that happens in a relationship that has a repeating cycle of abuse followed by moments of affection. Think of it like this. After a fight or a period of criticism or cruelty, the abusive partner will often flood you with intense affection, say they're sorry, and promise to change. This is sometimes called the honeymoon phase. This pattern of switching unpredictably between punishment and reward is incredibly powerful. It creates a dynamic that can be as addictive as any drug. It causes you to crave the good times and put up with the bad, always hoping for that next hit of affection. This bond is built on a power imbalance. It creates a deep sense of dependency and confusion, and it makes it incredibly hard to leave, even when you know the relationship is destroying you. So how can you tell if this is what's happening to you? Does any of this feel familiar? Let's get into the 7 signs that your relationship is built not on love, but on unhealed trauma. Sign 1. You feel an intense emotional attachment, despite the abuse. The first sign, and honestly the most confusing one, is feeling a deep sense of love, loyalty, and connection to someone who consistently hurts you. It's a love that just doesn't make sense. Your friends and family might see all the red flags and wonder why on earth you stay. But from the inside, it feels like an unbreakable bond. You might even find yourself fiercely defending them. You focus only on the perfect moments, while completely ignoring the parts that leave you shattered. This isn't real love, it's a classic symptom of a trauma bond. You've become attached to the person you rely on for comfort, even though they are the very source of your pain. This tangled emotional knot is what makes leaving feel not just hard, but impossible. It's like you'd be losing a piece of yourself. You might even mistake the intensity of the emotional roller coaster for deep passion. But healthy relationships are built on safety and security, not chaos and confusion. Sign 2. You constantly justify or minimize their harmful behavior. He's just really stressed at work. She didn't mean it like that. It was my fault. I pushed her buttons. Does that little voice in your head sound familiar? If you find yourself constantly making excuses for your partner's hurtful actions, you are likely in a trauma bond. This is a survival mechanism. Your brain can't handle the conflict. You love them, but they hurt you. So to survive, your mind creates a story to make it make sense. You might ignore giant red flags, leave out key details when talking to your friends, or convince yourself their behavior is just a temporary thing. This goes way beyond just being a forgiving person. It's a pattern of denial that keeps the bond alive. You might start to believe that if you were just a better partner or more understanding, the abuse would stop. You might even blame yourself for their outbursts. This self-blame is a hallmark of a trauma bond. It moves the responsibility off of them and onto you, keeping you stuck in the cycle. Sign 3. You feel trapped and find it almost impossible to leave. Logically, you know you should leave. Maybe you've even tried to multiple times, only to find yourself pulled right back in. People in trauma bonds often say they feel completely trapped. They're paralyzed by a mix of fear, guilt, and an emotional dependency that feels unbreakable. This feeling of being stuck is fueled by a few things. There's the fear of what comes next, and the terror of being alone. Your partner might have slowly and deliberately isolated you from your friends and family. They make you believe you have nowhere else to turn. This makes you think that nobody else could ever want you. This isolation is a key manipulation tactic. Then, there's the intense withdrawal that happens when you try to break the bond. It can feel like detoxing from a drug. It triggers overwhelming anxiety, depression, and a powerful craving for the emotional highs. This makes you incredibly vulnerable to going back the second they reach out. This isn't a sign that you're weak. It's a very real response to the addictive cycle you've been trapped in. If any of this is hitting home, I really want you to know you're not alone, and just understanding these dynamics is a massive step forward. For anyone who wants to start healing these patterns and rebuilding their self-worth, I've created a free guide on healing from toxic relationships. The link is in the description below. Think of it as a gentle starting point on the journey back to yourself. Sign 4. Your relationship is a constant cycle of devaluation and love bombing. Remember that honeymoon phase we talked about earlier? Sign 4 is living in that cycle on repeat. It has a specific name, the cycle of love bombing and devaluation. It usually kicks off with love bombing, where your partner showers you with so much affection and attention, it feels like you've met your soulmate. This is the phase that gets you hooked. But once you're all in, the dynamic flips. Suddenly, the person who put you on a pedestal starts finding fault with everything you do. They might belittle you, criticize you, and chip away at your self-esteem, piece by piece. Then, right when you feel like you can't take anymore, they pull you back in with another flood of affection or a big, remorseful gesture. This constant push and pull is the engine of the trauma bond. It keeps you in a state of confusion and hope. You cling to the good moments, desperately trying to get back to that initial love bombing phase. Sign 5. You've lost your sense of self and your self-esteem is gone. Who were you before this relationship? Can you still see that person when you look in the mirror? A truly devastating sign of a trauma bond is the slow erosion of your own identity. An abuser works to break down their partner's confidence and sense of self. Over time, you might start to internalize their criticisms. You start believing that you are unworthy, not good enough, or just fundamentally flawed. This loss of self often goes hand in hand with a deep sense of shame and guilt. You might feel ashamed that you're staying, or you might blame yourself for the abuse. Your world shrinks. Your partner's opinion of you becomes the only one that matters. You may lose touch with your hobbies, your friends, and your own values. Your life starts to revolve completely around managing their moods and chasing their approval. This isn't a partnership. It's a hostile takeover of your identity. Sign 6. You are emotionally dependent and crave their validation. In a trauma bond, your abuser becomes your main source of emotional support, even though they're also the one causing your pain. This creates a deeply unhealthy dependency. You find yourself relying on them for validation, for approval, and for your entire sense of worth. Their praise feels like a lifeline, and their disapproval feels like a death sentence. This dynamic is especially powerful for people with unhealed childhood trauma, like emotional neglect. An abuser can exploit this old wound. They position themselves as the only person who can give you the love and approval you've always craved. This just makes the trauma bond stronger. It makes it feel impossible to function without them. You become addicted to their validation, and the fear of losing it can become even more powerful than the pain of the abuse itself. Sign 7. You live in fear of abandonment and feel isolated. Ultimately, an abuser's goal is control. and one of the most powerful tools for that is fear, specifically the fear of abandonment. Your partner may have made you believe that they are the only one who will ever truly love you, that if you leave, you will be completely and utterly alone. This isn't just about being isolated from others, which we talked about earlier. This is about a deep internal terror. It's the feeling that, without them, you would be lost in a void, that your very identity is tied to their presence. This manufactured belief makes the threat of them leaving feel world-ending. It paralyzes you with a fear that goes beyond loneliness and into a terror of non-existence. So if you feel that intense attachment despite the pain, if you're always rationalizing their behavior, if you feel trapped, if you're stuck in that love bombing and devaluation cycle, if you've lost yourself, if you're emotionally dependent, and if you live in fear of being abandoned, take a deep breath. The very first thing I want you to hear is this: it is not your fault. Trauma bonds are sneaky, powerful, and they exploit our most basic human need for connection. Realizing you're in one isn't a sign of failure. It is a moment of incredible courage and clarity. This awareness is the first and most important step toward healing. You are not to blame for what happened, and you are not broken. Healing from this is a journey, not a race. It's about reconnecting with yourself, rebuilding your support system with people you trust, and learning how to set boundaries again. It is possible to break these chains to your past and build a future where love feels safe, supportive, and truly nourishing. You deserve a love that builds you up, not one that breaks you down. Thank you for holding space for this tough but really important conversation. If this video was helpful, please think about subscribing and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear this message. I truly want to build a community here, so if you feel comfortable, share one thing you've learned about yourself today in the comments below. Reading each other's stories can be so incredibly validating.